Hello everybody, this is the first video on my channel and to be honest I'm a little nervous. Anyway, today I'm going to talk about the poem Death Be Not a Bride by Donne. So first, let's know who is Donne. Let's just know some information about him. Donne was born in London in 1572 and died in 1631. He was an English scholar, poet, priest and lawyer, most famous for the powerful oratory of his sermons and for his public role as a dean of St. Paul's Cathedral in London. He was a Catholic in a time everyone was a Protestant. Donne and many members of his family were exiled, imprisoned and mistreated by community. His wife died during birth and he suffered financial problems, poverty and illness. Donne suffered cancer that brought him close to death many times. Towards the end of his life, he wrote works that challenged death. Donne was the leading figure of the 17th century metaphysical school. He wrote sonnets, love poems, religious poems, elegies, satires, and even sermons. He is famous for his Holy Sonnet, also known as the Divine Meditation or Divine Sonnet. He wrote it in 1633. It's written in a Petrarchan style, dealing with his religious faith, morality, and God. So this is all about Donne. Let's now see his poem, Death Be Not a Bride. So let's read the poem. Death be not a bride, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. For those whom thou thinkest thou dost overthrow, die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me. From rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be, much pleasure then from thee much more must flow. And soonest our best men with thee do go. Rest of the bones and soul's delivery, thou art a slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men, and dost with poison, war, and sickness dwell. And bobby or charms can make us sleep as well. And better than thy stroke, why swallowest thou then? One short sleep past, we walk eternally, and death shall be no more. Death thou shalt die. So let's start with the general meaning. Of course, the poem is a religious poem and it's a direct address to death, arguing that it is powerless because it acts merely as a short sleep between earthly living and the eternal afterlife. And also the poet tries to tell us that people should not be afraid of death because death is not frightful and it is the beginning of the eternal afterlife. So let's now see the stanzas and analyze them stanza by stanza. The first stanza, let's read it. Death be not a bride, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. For those whom thou thinkest thou dost overthrow, die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me. So the speaker in this stanza addresses and personifies death, telling it is not to be argument just because some people find death scary and dreadful. In fact, death is neither of these things, because people don't really die when death, whom the speaker of course pities, comes to them, nor will the speaker truly die when death arrives for him. The second stanza is, from rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be, much pleasure then from thee much more must flow. And soonest our best men with thee do go. Rest of the bonds and soul's delivery. So in this stanza, the poet comparing death to rest and sleep, which are like images of death. The speaker anticipates death to be even more pleasurable than these activities. Furthermore, it is often the best people who go with death, which represent nothing more than the rest of the body and the arrival of the soul, in the afterlife. Now let's read the third stanza. Thou art slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men, and dost with poison, war, and sickness dwell, and by your charms can make us sleep as well. And better than thy stroke, why swallowest thou then? So death is fully controlled by fate and luck, and often administered by rulers or people acting desperately. The speaker points out that death is also associated with poison, war, and illness. Drugs and magic spells are more effective than death when it comes to rest. With all this in mind, what possible reason could death have for being so puffed up with pride? We have arrived to the last couplet. One short sleep past, we walk eternally, and death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die. So, as I've read, death is nothing but a mere sleep in between people's earthly lives and the eternal afterlife, in which death can visit them no more. So, death can only happen one time in your life. It can visit you no more. It is instead death, or a certain idea of death, as something to be scared of, that is going to die. So death itself is the one who going to die, not you. Now let's talk about the figure of his speech. So first we have a personification. We see the poet gives death a human form, regarding it as a person. He asked death not to be proud, right? So this is for the personification. We have also a metaphor. We see the poet indirectly compares death to something which is swallows. So we arrived in the end of this video. Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the explanation. I hope that I will see you in other videos. And goodbye. Have a good day.